Hey there, how are you? I recognize you. You're somebody who used to watch my podcast back when I was still podcasting regularly. Welcome, and if you're a new person who hasn't watched me before, welcome, because this is quite the episode to check me out on. My name's Lisa, also known as Fiber Nymph, and it has been a minute or two since I recorded a regular episode of the podcast. Yeah, you might have watched my short little weird video where all you could see was my spinning and I was just talking that I did a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. So if you did see that, then you know why I've been absent. It's been, the last podcast I did was the end of July. So here we are, 2.5 months later. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. I foresee myself recording on a more regular basis now. Things are starting to settle down. For anybody who doesn't know, my oldest son passed away at the beginning of August, and the last couple months have been a little rough. But things are evening out. The intensity of it all has lessened. I'm through that initial really stabby surprise part of grief, and I'm in the more mellow is probably not the right word, the less intense, the less shocking you at every turn kind of pain. So it's okay. Obviously grief goes on for a long time, but life also goes on, and it's important to live it. That is my main thought process at this point. It's time for me to pick up and move forward. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm here with you guys today. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm in the porch room in case you can't tell. And our deck is right out there. And so there's this squirrel who's just hippity hopping all over the place. So many things have changed since I talked to you last, and I'm going to fill you in on some things that are pertinent to you. I'm really going to not talk a whole lot about all of the emotional stuff of the last couple months, because like I said, I'm moving on. I need to move forward. But there are things that I want to talk to you about. But first, I do want to let you know that I will have show notes in the description box below. I also put them up on the Fiber Nymph Dye Works blog and the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Ravelry group. And also, if you're interested in helping to support the podcast, I do have a YouTube membership, just one level, that usually affords you some extra content that is not on the main channel. I do apologize to those who are my members that there hasn't really been any extra content in these last couple of months. That is going to change as well. I promise I'm getting back to that. But I do appreciate y'all for sticking with me even through these quiet months. So you can check that out. Below the podcast, there should be a little thing that says subscribe if you want to see what that's all about. And if not, I'm just really happy you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. This episode is going to deviate from what has been my norm over the past almost 12 years of podcasting. Mainly because I do have a good bit of just announcement-y kind of stuff that I want to tell you, just so you know what to expect moving forward, because there are going to be some transitions. Matter of fact, I think that's the name of this podcast, Transitions. This is definitely a transition episode, and I do have show notes, which is why I'm going to be looking down here to make sure that I don't forget to tell you something. There will be crafting content, just so you know. It will just be a little bit later in the podcast. I will put a timestamp in the show notes, so if you don't want to hear all my chatter about all the transition-y administrative stuff, then you don't have to listen to it. You can just be surprised when it starts happening. But meanwhile, if you are interested in knowing what's happening, then just stay tuned, and I'm going to try to get through this as expediently as I can. Obviously, I'm coming back after a while. Again, it was a very unexpected hiatus. but it was a necessary one. And as a result of that, things are different, not just here in the podcast world and in my business, but just things are different. You know, you don't lose someone you love dearly without it changing you. And as a result of that, you know, you start to think about things and try to decide what is the best way to move forward. And I've had a lot of those conversations with myself over the past couple of months. And the themes that keep coming up for me in so many different ways over these past couple of months have been the theme of letting go of the things that don't serve me anymore, because there's really no use in holding on to those, and moving forward and trying new directions. So those have been things that I'm trying to pay attention to, since, again, they keep popping up for me time and time again. As I said, like, I am different in so many ways after everything that happened. My world is different. You know, loss plus Bill returned to work in the office for the first time in 2.5 years. That's why I'm out here. I have the porch room back theoretically. It's still not put back completely in order, but I have my porch room back. So that'll be fun for recording and other things, hopefully. Shifts that I'm making within my business. Yeah. And then also in the midst of all of that, I got COVID after 2.5 years of not getting it and having vaccines and boosters. I still managed to get COVID. So, you know, that just added a little extra layer of everything on top. But thankfully, it was a very mild case of COVID. But you know what? Having to like isolate from my family to not make them sick, you know, that also gave me a whole lot of extra time to think, because it's not like I didn't have enough thinking time in the last couple of months. So, that's why I realized I really did need to do a video and talk to you a little bit. All those things added together do equal some transitions for me. A lot of it is things that I've been considering for a long time and I haven't acted on them. And largely I realized I wasn't acting on them out of fear. And that's not really a good excuse, because when you don't act because of fear, you're not letting yourself be what you could be, and you have no way of knowing how people would react. And I think when I don't act because of fear, I'm also saying to everybody that isn't getting that version of me, the authentic version of me, is like, I don't trust you to make your own decision as to whether or not you want to come along on my journey with me. And that's not fair to you. So I am stepping out in faith that what I have to offer here on the channel and in my shop and just in life in general, it will find its right audience. Hopefully it'll resonate with you. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too, because sometimes things come to an end of a season and there's nothing wrong with moving away from things that don't resonate with you anymore. So anyway, that's my sort of little introduction to that, letting you know where I'm coming from. I'm in a phase of transition, and there's going to be some changes that you will probably notice, and others that maybe you won't notice quite as readily or ever. But that's okay too. The one thing you may have noticed already is that I have not said welcome to 90% knitting. And that's because I have decided to phase the name 90% knitting out. That's not what the podcast is going to be called from here on out. I loved the name 90% knitting whenever I came up with it, again, almost 12 years ago. It was perfect for what I was doing then. But over the years, it has seemed to be less of a good fit. And especially in the last year or two, I've just felt like it felt constraining almost, because I was putting a lot of time into things that I thought would fit really well in with 90% knitting, and they weren't necessarily the things that I wanted to be spending my time on, my crafting time, my creative time. And so I have decided that I'm going to let go of that name, and it's just going, I don't know that I have an official name for the podcast at this point. It's the Fiber Nymph Dyeworks channel. At its core, this channel is related to my business, but I want to have the latitude to share whatever it is that I'm working on. Not that I haven't, but I don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to have X number of things to be able to show you knitting wise or fiber related wise every single podcast, because that was really becoming burdensome to me. And that didn't make the podcast super fun for me sometimes. And I don't want it to not be fun, because if it's not fun, then I don't want to do it. Not that everything in the world has to be super fun, but you know what I mean, right? You want to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. So anyway, I'm changing the name of the podcast. I'm taking 90% knitting off of it. And from now on, it's going to, I don't even know that I'm going to use episode numbers anymore, which is sad because I was almost to 200. But it doesn't matter. I'm just going to give them names. I'll put the date on and I'll give you a title, and that's going to be the podcast. And if you enjoy that, I hope, because it really doesn't change anything about the podcast other than having a really specific structure. And that's kind of what I want to get away from, because that structure was also constraining. So anyway, that's the first change. The podcast might also start to take on a different look over the next few months. I anticipate that this episode will probably be, fingers crossed, the last of my fairly long episodes. My episodes have been running at an hour average, maybe even a little bit more. And that is also very constraining because it takes a lot to record hour-long episodes. It takes a lot to edit them. It takes a lot of uploading time, processing time. And I honestly don't have that kind of time to devote on a regular basis, which is why my podcast episodes, even before, were becoming fewer and fewer. And I don't think it necessarily serves any of us well, because I don't watch a lot of super long podcasts myself. I like shorter ones. So I would like to be able to create shorter ones for you. So my episodes are probably going to start taking on a fairly different look. The content overall probably will not change. It'll just be presented differently and hopefully in smaller bite-size increments. So that's something you can look forward to. Okay, so things that will not be changing. The content is still going to be predominantly creative, making oriented. I am a knitter at heart. That's always probably going to be my number one craft of choice. So there obviously will still be knitting content, but I also love other fiber arts. I crochet, I spin, I weave. I want to do more stitching. And that's something that I haven't really allowed myself the time to play with, because it takes away from all the other stuff that is what I feel like people were expecting. So I would hope to be able to start doing some of that, and needle punch. And I have other things I enjoy doing too, other crafts. I have quilting stuff that I want to do. Oh gosh, I shouldn't even go there. But see, I don't want to think that way. I don't want to think, I shouldn't go there. I want to be able to go there. I want to be able to play more. And even crafts that are outside of the fiber art. So I hope those will bring you some joy whenever those pop in as well. So there will definitely still be creating content. The MIYO Mal is also continuing as planned through the end of this year. It'll end in November. So once that's over, I'm not sure what next year will bring as far as a make-along. I do have some ideas, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And then I'm going to continue to maintain the Ravelry group, the Fiber Nymph Dyeworks Ravelry group. We've got a really nice community there, and I know a lot of you really enjoy being able to interact there, especially around the MIYO Mal. That's the majority of the interaction on there. Optimally, at some point, I would like to be able to branch out the community. I have had plans probably for close to 2 years now that I've wanted to start a Patreon, and that is one of those things that fear has kept me from doing. And I think I need to just get over that and do it, and leave that as, again, up to you as an option as to whether or not you want to come along on that journey. So hopefully there will be a Patreon in the future. I would like to explore setting up a Discord community for our group, and that might be a part of Patreon, it might be not a part of Patreon, I don't know. I want to resume doing Zooms. I started doing those earlier this year, and then things got weird and then weirder. So I really want to start doing Zooms again and live streams. I love doing those things. So I think if I'm able to spend less time recording really long episodes, I'll have more time to do those interactive things with you guys. So I hope you will enjoy that as well. Aside from the podcast itself, shifts that are going to probably be taking place within my business, Fiber Nymph Dye Works. I'm obviously finishing out my 2022 commitments, which primarily at this point are the holiday countdown collections. Obviously, those are going to go out to everybody who ordered those. They are basically my main thing that I'm working on in the shop at this point. I'm still going to be dyeing, still featuring self-striping yarns predominantly because that is what I love. I enjoy coming up with those colorways. I will probably branch out and do some other types of dyeing as well whenever I can. So we'll see where that goes. Another thing for the business that is definitely going to change is the frequency and the nature of my shop updates. Primarily, they're going to shift in the fact that instead of doing, say, I'm going to do an update Friday at 5 p.m. and that's going to have a whole bunch of different stuff in it. I would like to shift to doing more organic, just updating the shop as things become available. There are pros and cons to both of those. I know sometimes people really like to know when something's going to go in the shop so that they can stock the shop or whatever, set an alarm. I get that. But for my part, that has become constraining for what I'm able to do and how often I can refresh the shop. And I would like to try the approach of putting things in the shop throughout the month at different times. You know, the newsletter is always going to be the best way to know when things are going up in the shop, as is Instagram, Facebook by proxy, because anything that posts on Instagram also posts on the Facebook, the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Facebook group page. So yeah, I'm leaning towards that. I would like to have that kind of latitude to do my updates differently. So I hope you will be willing to try that out with me and see how that goes. It could change again in the future if it doesn't work out well, but right now I think that's what I'm going to do. I also, and this is a big one, and this is another one that I've mainly been held back by fear because it's kind of a big step. I want to start focusing more on my design work. I've always designed like maybe 1, 2, 3 patterns a year at best, but I have so many designs like written down and started and ideas for them that I want to pursue. I really feel like that's the next step in my business. And being a dyer, I feel like I'm in a really unique place where I can dye the yarns specifically that I want to use for pattern designs and then make that available to you guys. So I'm really looking forward to that. And definitely as I move into 2023, design work is going to become one of my more focused aspects of my business. So that will also probably affect how often I'm updating things in the shop to a degree. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I'm very excited about pursuing my design end of my business because it's always taken a back seat and I just really feel like it's time. So I'm happy about that. I also would like to start offering certain handmade items in my shop. Like I've talked to you before, like I would love to start weaving and being able to sell some of my weaving, or things made with my woven fabric. I have some other ideas for handmade things that are maybe not specifically fiber arts related, that could be fun. And it's just something that I'm playing with. It's not a definite yet, but it's an area that I'm looking towards. And it's another one of those, like, if not now, when? Lisa, you have to, like, you know, what's the saying? Shit or get off the pot. That's what my dad used to say. And that's true. Like, life is short. We're here one time. If we're not going to do the things that we really want to try and that might make us happy, then what are we here for? So, anyway, that's another thing. I'm also kind of rethinking what non-yarn fiber related items I want to carry in the shop. I've been carrying needles and notions and cards and mugs and wine glasses and things like that that all have a knitterly theme. I'm not sure that I'm going to continue doing that. I like being able to supply people with those items, but I don't know that going forward I'm going to continue. The knitting needles are still a maybe. But to be honest, the knitting needles that sell are such a small number of sizes, and then I have like tons of needles left that never move. So I just don't know that that's the best use of my resources. So I may be discontinuing that kind of thing. I'm really enjoying making stitch markers though, especially the crystal ones, and I may continue to do that, especially if I can tie that in with some of my yarn colorways, which I have plans for. So you might see more of that kind of thing. But yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. And I was debating whether I should even go into all of this with you guys, because sometimes it feels like, oh, well, I can say all this stuff out loud, but if I don't actually act on it, then what was the point? And also, I don't know how interested all of you are in hearing about my thoughts and my plans. Like, maybe you're just like, lady, get to the crafting. That's what I'm here for. Although if that's the case, hopefully you just used the timestamp and jumped ahead. I guess I finally decided I wanted to share this stuff mainly because I really appreciate it whenever podcasters or, other creators share with me when things are changing in their life, because it brings about a human element. Like, you know me as a face on the screen. Some of you have met me in person. But at the core of things, like, I am a person just like you, and I have to make these decisions. And sometimes it's nice to be able to share them with people and share my thoughts and where things are going. And a lot of you have stuck with me over many years now. And so I thought, why not? Why not share that with you? So if you think I'm making horrible, horrible decisions, please maybe just keep that to yourself. Because I don't need that kind of negativity. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, though, making these kinds of decisions are scary. Making is scary. Making these kinds of decisions is scary. Again, it goes back to that fear aspect, like, oh my gosh, what if nobody likes me when I change things? But it's also exciting, and it's reinvigorating. And honestly, after 12 years... the podcast is going to turn 1 in January. My business turns 12 in January. My business turns 12 in March. Well, at least the anniversary of my first shop update is March. The business technically started in January too. But anyway, after 12 years, it feels like it's time for change. Things do need to move a little bit differently than they have over the past 12 years. And there's nothing wrong with that, because life is not static. If you are static too long, you become stagnant. And I don't want to become stagnant. I want to keep moving because I want to keep doing my business, another 12 years at least. I'm sorry, no, my nose is itchy. And to continue doing it, it needs to grow. So these are just some big growth things that I've, again, been thinking about for a while, and now I'm going to start putting them into action. So there you go. I hope you will come along with me as I shift into these changes and transitions, and I hope we all have some fun together. So, hello, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my channel, and now we're going to get into the crafting. I'm not even going to try to catch you up on everything crafting related that has taken place since the end of July when I recorded last time. That would be folly. I couldn't do it. I went through phases over these past 2.5 months where I was hardly crafting at all because I just had no focus. I had no interest. And that was hard, you know. It's hard whenever your go-to of helping you deal with things you suddenly have no interest in. And then when I was working on things, it was just strange little things that like can't really show you those because I don't have them at hand or whatever. They were just weird. I did a lot of really bad drawing and painting that is just terrible. I wouldn't probably share it with anybody. A lot of journaling. And that was what got me through. But there was also some crafting. So I am going to show you a couple things. I think, well, I know you saw these because it was a colorway sample. But these are my Gathering Seashells socks that I made. The colorway is Gathering Seashells, and this is on my Bounce base, Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bounce. I ended up making these for Bill, if you couldn't tell, because look how tall they are. He loves tall socks. So yeah, I love this colorway, and I would have loved to have had it for myself, but I honestly do not need any more socks, and he could use some more socks. So I made these for him, and he likes them. I haven't let him wear them yet because I wanted to show them to you. I had told several people that I was going to do one more update of Gathering Seashells in the shop, and that was back before all this stuff happened. And now I feel like, well, it's fall and winter coming up. I don't know that seashells are necessarily the right colorway to do, but I am intending to put one more batch of this in the shop sometime before the end of the year. So you can watch for that coming up at some point. These are just 2x1 rib. It's kind of my default sock, my plain vanilla ribbed sock that we all like because they stay up really well. US 1 needles. I do, how many stitches? I think there's 60 stitches. That works for 2x1 rib. Yeah. So anyway, those are finished socks. The project that has been getting the majority of my time lately that I can show you is Emma's sweater, her Halloween sweater. My daughter, do you remember this sweater I started last year? It's the nope, it's not. It is the Superstitious pullover. The designer is Michael Shawn, and I started this last October. It was like partway into October, and I started this thinking somehow I was going to get it done for Halloween, and obviously I didn't. So I pulled it out this year. Sorry, the needles are going to bang on the table here. I pulled it out this year, and I am bound and determined I'm getting this finished. So the color work charts are so much fun, and actually in this light you can tell that these purple things are cats. It's really hard to see up close sometimes. So we've got cobwebs, cats, bats, more cobwebs. I love these charts. They were so much fun. And there are Hocus Pocus themed charts in that pattern as well. You can just mix and match the charts. These are the ones we chose or that Emma wanted. But they have like the silhouettes of the 3 characters from Hocus Pocus, their heads. There's some other things too. I think maybe the words Hocus Pocus are an option. Anyway, but we did these, and originally Emma wanted this to be a hoodie, and so there are hoodie directions in the pattern. So I cast it on as a hoodie. It did not have this ribbing. And so when I picked it back up, I was almost done with this chart for this last cobweb. That's where I left it off. And I did not leave this with very many good notes either, I have to say. But anyway, I finished the body. I got it as long as she wanted it. I didn't do any more color work. You could put more in, but I did not. And then I was going to do the hood next. Oh, by the way, the yarn that I'm using is my Ridgetop DK, which I no longer carry. I dyed the rest of it, put it in the shop earlier this year, and I'm not having it remilled, which we talked about at that point in time. But anyway, that's what I was using for this. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do the hood first because I need to make sure I'm going to have enough yarn, because I didn't think about that fact that I had a project in process that I might need more yarn for. I was pretty sure I had enough, but I haven't done enough hoods to know how much yarn it's going to take to do a hood. So I wanted to be cautious and was going to do the hood first, because I also figured on the sleeves, if it got to the point where I ran out of the gray, I could always do some sort of color work or stripes or something with these other colors, because I had plenty of that left. So I set about doing the hood. I had the right number of stitches to pick up, so that was exciting. I could not figure out the hood directions to save my life. I don't know if it was just me, if it was how the pattern was written, and there were not a lot of finished projects on Ravelry that had done the hood, that had any input, and the one that I did find was not super helpful, that had pattern notes, or project notes. Anyway, after some finagling and playing and trying to figure this out and realizing that my hood opening was going to be over here, over top of the shoulder, I told her, I said, I don't think I can do this hood. And she's like, that's fine. Just do a regular collar. And so that's what I did. I just picked up those stitches and did this ribbed collar. And it fits her just fine. It sits really nice. So that's awesome. So then I did that. And then I started on the sleeves. This is going to be a very oversized sweater on her. I purposely picked a bigger size because she wanted it to be oversized, but the sleeves honestly start probably like down here around her like bra band. Really baggy. That would drive me crazy. She's okay with it though. Either that or she's just telling me that because she wants the sweater and she doesn't want me to feel bad. I don't know. But anyway, I have to do about 13 inches of sleeve. So I have about 4 more inches to go on this one. I am decreasing every 5 rounds. I'm not following the pattern at this point. I'm just sort of doing my own thing. But yeah, it's a really big baggy sleeve. And I haven't checked gauge in a really long time. No idea if my gauge is on or not. But it doesn't matter at this point because I'm just making this work. So again, I'm just going to probably decrease all the way down until I get to the end where I'm going to start doing ribbing. And then I'll do the ribbing. I'll go down a couple needle sizes and it'll be fine. And then I will do the other sleeve and the sweater will be done. So I am super, super hopeful that I will have this sweater done within the next week. That's my goal. And then she can have her sweater for Halloween this year because she's really looking forward to it. And I would very much like to have it off the needles after all this time. So again, that is the why can't I think of the word? Superstitious Pullover by Michael Shawn. Ridge top, DK, no longer available. Sorry. I think most of it I did on US 6 needles. The sleeves I'm doing on 7s because my gauge always tends to get tighter on sleeves. Yeah, so that is that. And I think I did 5s for the collar. I don't know. I haven't been keeping excellent notes on this because I haven't cared. I would say overall though, the charts are the best part of this pattern. The way the pattern is written to actually make the sweater, I found a little bit lacking. But I do have enough sweater knitting experience that I was able to like fill in and make it work. So that would maybe kind of be helpful. So. Anyway, so that has been a big thing on my needles. A couple of other things that I've cast on recently were colorway samples for the update that I did last week. The first is a mitt. I got tired of doing socks for everything, so I decided I'd do a mitt. Shows off the stripes. This is my new Halloween colorway for this year. This is called Magic Potions. So those are the 5 colors in Magic Potions. There is still some of this in the shop. I don't know that I'll be dyeing up any more of it just because it's, you know, late. Well, we're mid-October, so I don't know that I need to do another update of it. I had so many plans for Halloween and fall updates this year, but that all went out the window when my life went berserk. So, you know, it is what it is, and I'm doing what I can. But anyway, that was the one. And then the other one is this colorway, which I did start a sock out of. And this is called Leaf Litter. And I had it in the shop. Let's see, do I have any? Where are they? Oh, wait, here's the, here's a full skein of Magic Potions. So you can see what it looks like. And here is one of the, I did it in shorty sock sets. Finish your sentence, Lisa. Leaf Litter in shorty sock set. So it comes with a 50-gram skein of the self-striping and then 2 minis, a green and a purple. So I used the purple for my heel flap and I'll use the green for the toe. And when I do the second sock, I will probably switch those because that's what I like to do. There is still some, obviously this is Mountain Tweed, BFL. So there's a few of these in the shop. I think there's one or two bedazzled. That's what my sample is out of bedazzled. I think the bounce ones are all sold out now. I am going to dye up full skeins of this colorway though. So that will be coming up in the next, I don't know, little bit. I'm not promising any dates for anything at this point. But yeah, it's just a simple, it's a 2-striper with a variegated stripe, and then the speckles in all of just, you know, the leaf litter. Like when you're outside at this time of year, there's just leaves of every color on the ground. I just love that. And that's what inspired this colorway. So cast those on. Eventually I will finish the socks and make the mate for the mitt. The mitt was not a specific pattern. It was actually just sort of a riff on my fast and easy fingerless mitts pattern that is on Ravelry that I designed years and years ago. I have the first one I wrote for knitting flat, which who does mitts flat anymore, right? But again, it was a long time ago that I designed that. And then I did a second version, circular. I fully intend on updating that circular version because I was a pretty new pattern writer back then. I would call myself a pattern writer back then rather than a designer. But I was pretty new to that designing game back then, and I've learned a lot. And so I know I can improve that pattern. It's been knit a bazillion times, not literally, but a lot of people have knit that pattern, and I know they've enjoyed it because I get notes and stuff, and that's always fun. But I would like to make the pattern better and also a little simpler. So I can do that now. So you can be looking for that as I start down that designing rabbit hole. But anyway, that's I played on that pattern to do that mitt. Was my point. Okay, what else? Oh, I did some weaving. I wove a scarf. It's a long scarf. It's probably, how long is it? It's longer than it's probably about 6 feet, I would say, because it's longer than my arm span, my wingspan. I used my 10-inch rigid heddle Ashford Sample-It loom. I put those words together in the wrong order, sorry. And this is all just leftover DK weight yarn I had in my stash. But what I did, and let me see if I can find, not that this is actually going to matter at all. This is it. I started at this end and I used pi, the pi sequence to decide the widths of each of the stripes. So I had pi printed out, and I just, each color, I was just randomly picking them out of a basket, and I would do however many picks back and forth that corresponded with the next number in pi. So there's 3 and then 1 and then 4 and then 1 and then 5 and then 9 and then 2 and so on. It's really fun doing that way, and I don't think this is going to be my last pi scarf. I would also like to do one, or maybe more than one, using a D20 die. I'm not a gamer, but I learned about these liquid core dice for gaming because I saw them on TikTok or something, somebody who makes them, and I'm like, I need one of those. Just number one, the liquid core is really cool because all this glitter stuff floats around. But I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so much fun to have a 20-sided die that you could roll and make choices for things like this. I also am trying to figure out how I can incorporate it in dyeing, like kind of almost like my serendipitous stripes, except it would be like D20 stripes. I don't know. I can't do a 20 stripe colorway. I can't do that. So maybe that would probably be more based on the colors. Or maybe I would need to get a smaller die. I know they make them, there's like regular 6-sided dies. What's the next number up? I don't know. I know there's a whole bunch of different sides, numbers of sides. That could be a weird rabbit hole for me to go down, especially since I'm not a gamer. But whatever. I like to do fun things like that when it comes to my crafting and my dyeing. So anyway, this is my pi scarf. I'm considering maybe putting this in the shop. Like I said, I would love to start selling some of my weaving. And with scarves like this, you might remember I sometimes will seam them at the fringe edge to make a cowl that has fringe here, and then you can double it, to wear it that way. So I might put this in the shop as a scarf and then have the option of having me seam it together for you as a fringy cowl if that was something you would like. So I don't know. I don't know whether to do that now or to maybe weave a few more cowl or scarves before putting them in so there's not just one, because that seems sort of weird. I don't know. Tell me what you think. And is that something that you would be interested in? If you're not a weaver, I mean, obviously if you're a weaver, you're not interested in it. But, if you like woven things but you don't weave, like, would that be something like gift items or something, or even something for yourself? Buy yourself a gift. I don't know. Let me know. I'm interested in feedback. But I think did I just kick the camera? I'm sorry if I did. Yeah, I want to start putting that kind of stuff in the shop. And the only other thing I have been working on intermittently is my spinning, which you did see in that last little weird video that I did. That's all you saw was me spinning. I'm still working on my combo spin. Ironically, I have not spun a whole lot since I made that video. I think I had just finished the 3rd bobbin when I was doing that video, and I'm now on the 4th bobbin. So I'm making progress. I just didn't work on it for a while because I was doing other stuff, or otherwise my brain just didn't want to focus on it. Once I have all 4 bobbins, the first 4 bobbins finished though, I am going to ply those. They're going to be 2 plies, so I'll have my first 2 skeins. So hopefully by the next time I record an episode or record something, I'll get to show you one of those because I'm really enjoying it and I can't wait to have that done, because that's going to, I'm spinning that specifically to make a DRK everyday sweater, an Andrea Mowry design. So that is all of the crafting that I'm going to share with you today. The other thing that I am continuing for the remainder of the year is my personal stash yarn challenge that I started back in January, and I had been very successfully using stash yarn every month. I had my husband, in case you don't remember or weren't here for that, I had given my husband 12 skeins or sets of skeins of yarn and 12 project bags, and asked him to just randomly put them in bags and close them up so that I could choose one every month, and then I would use that for something, because I was trying to use up some like deep stash kind of yarn. So I successfully did that through June. And then in July, I did start a project. Which one is my July project? Let's see. Yeah, the July project is still in process. It is a cowl. I have not worked on it in, I don't know, forever. Actually, I had it with me when Emma and I went camping. Do you remember I told you Emma and I were going to finally get to go on our camping trip? We were on our camping trip. I had been working on it, and then it was while we were on our camping trip that I found out about my son. And so that ended the camping trip on a not so positive note. But I also I worked on this that night in the middle of the night in the rain at the campground because I couldn't sleep. And so I've knit mistakes into this because I forgot to continue doing the increases that I was supposed to be doing, but also I didn't get that much done. So I didn't go back. I figure you can see a little blip where there should have been increases, but at some point I will have this done. And even though it's not a happy memory, it's a memory that's knit into it. And, maybe I can think happy thoughts about my son when I wear it. But anyway, this is the pattern. It's called Rogue River by Kay Hopkins. I just haven't worked on it, not for any major reason. I mean, for a while I just wasn't working on anything, like I said, and then I just never really got back to this. But this was my July stash yarn, which was a mini set, one of my own mini sets, Fiber Nymph Dye Works. So then I think the last time I recorded, I did show you, or I had pulled my August yarn to show you, and that was this yarn, which these are 2 hand spun skeins that I spun from a loop bullseye bump that I painstakingly divided in half, because loop bullseye bumps are like gradients. So I pulled out each color section the whole way and then split it in half so that I could spin 2 separate skeins. And I don't remember if I thought I was going to make socks or something out of this. I'm not going to make socks. I actually have a weaving idea that I would like to try with this. So I have to think it out and I have to do some math. But I think that's probably what's going to end up happening with that. So that was my August yarn, which obviously I have not used yet. But in the midst of everything going on, I did at one point think, oh, I never picked my September yarn. So I pulled a bag and I picked my September yarn, and ironically enough, it's more hand spun that is also in 2 skeins. These are not the same kind of twin skeins. These are obviously just variegated colors. However, I need to again do math, and if I think I have enough, I might try to do what I want to do with those other yarns, those other 2 skeins. I might try it with this yarn first, just because I don't have as much of an attachment to this yarn, and if it doesn't work, I won't be as heartbroken as I would be if I try it with those other skeins and it doesn't work. That way, if I can get it to work with this, I'll do it with that. If I can't get it to do with this, I will do something else with those 2 hand spun skeins. So that was my September yarn that, again, has not seen anything done to it. And then just the other day, I realized, I never picked October yarn. So I went in and I picked from my remaining 3 project bags. I picked 1 bag here. And I was pretty sure I knew what was in this one because I remembered one skein that I hadn't seen yet, and I was pretty sure it needed to be in a bigger bag, and I was right. It's this, and oh my gosh, you're not even seeing here. Oh, if I put it closer, that's a really good representation of this color right there. Oh, so pretty. So this is some Clun Forest by Solitude Wool. I got this, I'm pretty sure, at Maryland Sheep and Wool many years ago. I had never worked with Clun Forest, and I wanted to try it. The colorway is called Tarnished, and I love how it changes, because in different light it looks green, and then in other light it sort of has that tarnished bronzy look to it, which, I mean, that is a green also, but it changes with the light. It's really cool. So it's a worsted weight. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this, but I think I might do a design. I might use it for a design project, because I have some things in mind that this would be really good yarn for. I just don't know if I have enough yardage. I don't know. We'll see. How much yardage is there? 185 yards. See, that seems more like an Aran weight to me than worsted, but it's okay. So it's very fluffy though, too. It's kind of, I don't know. It doesn't totally look woolen spun. It might be a semi-woolen. Anyway, so this was my October yarn, which eventually will become something. I just don't know quite what yet. So I am technically keeping up with that project. I just haven't actively been working on anything in the recent past. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. That leaves us with the MIYO, which is the Make It Your Own MAO. And we are in the 4th quarter of that. The 4th quarter is October and November. I have been so absent from the online community in the Ravelry group for this, and I apologize. I wish I could have been in there more, especially this last quarter. I mean, I basically lost this last quarter, like August and September. I lost those 2 months in general, not just in this in the MAO, but I have lost it in the MAO. So I'm so appreciative to everybody who has continued to keep the conversations going, and who has helped things run smoothly, tag me whenever I needed to pop in and answer a question or whatever. I do intend to get back in there now. I want to make this last quarter, I want to be there. So that is my intention. But meanwhile, the 3rd quarter did end, and I have winners to announce, and I have prizes to offer the winners. The prizes are a little different than usual this time just because I haven't been dyeing very much and there's not a lot in the shop that I could have chosen from. So I hope you'll bear with me on my slightly odd prize options for this time around. So I'm going to show you the prize options first, then I'll announce the winners. If you're one of the winners that I'm going to announce, you need to email me, fibernymph@gmail.com, and let me know that you know you're a winner. Send me your mailing address and your full name and mailing address, as well as your top, I'm going to say your top 4 choices of prize, since there's 4 people. I just want to make sure that you can get the one that you want closest to the top of your list, so I need to know all 4. Okay, the 4 prize choices. This is a set of 5 bedazzled mini skeins. My bedazzled base, which is a stellina base. These are not specific colors that I dye regularly. These are all little one-of-a-kinds in like blues and these deep berries into purple, and this is a purplish blue. So these were a result of just a happy dyeing day whenever I had some excess dyes left, and I usually use those to dye either half skeins or mini skeins or something. And oh, bird just bonked into the window, but he's fine. Yeah, so I did this little mini set. So that's one option. This was lost in the shop inventory. This is a Heavenly Gradient, so my Heavenly base, which is my MCN base, and this is the dark to denim colorway. It's a color block gradient. I have not dyed gradients in a really long time. I'm not sure that I will dye gradients again. I don't know. I'll never say never, but it's not on the top of my list of things to dye anymore. But this one somehow just got stashed away, and I don't know what I stashed it away for, but here it is. It's available as a prize. So again, it's a fingering weight yarn, my Heavenly base, fun little gradient. My next prize option is actually some hand spun. I don't usually offer hand spun as a prize. One of the things that my effort of moving forward is doing is, as I said, like maybe getting rid of things that no longer serve me. And while yarn can always serve you, I have a lot more hand spun and a lot more yarn in general than I'm ever going to use. So I'm trying to go through and find things that maybe would do better passed on to another home of somebody who might enjoy them. So this is some hand spun. This was also a loop bullseye bump. So it is a gradient spin. It's a 3-ply. I'm going to say it's probably a good worsted weight. I would have to calculate the yardage, but I would say, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to calculate it, but it's a decent amount. That tells you so much, right? If you're interested in it as one of your prize options, let me know and I will tell you the yardage once I have a chance to figure that out. So anyway, but it's fun. I like the colors. There's red and burgundy and browns and rust, and there's just a wee little bit of like Angelina sparkle stuff in there. Just a little bit. It's not heavily sparkled. So that's an option. The 4th option is a commercial yarn, which is called Paradigm Shift by Cascade Yarns. This is mercerized cotton. I love this colorway. I bought 2 of these cakes way back at the beginning of the pandemic because I wanted to support a local LYS who was trying to transition from in-person shopping to online shopping. And so when she did that, I ordered a couple of cakes of this. And the one that I have used so much. I've made dishcloths. I've made some crocheted mats. You've probably seen them. But I don't really need a second one. But it's really fun. It makes great dishcloths, by the way. So fun colors, bright colors. So that is an option. I know I don't usually offer commercial yarns as a prize for the MIYO Mal, but this time I am. Okay, and then the 5th prize choice, because since there's 4 winners, I like to offer 5 prizes so everybody has something to choose from. The 5th prize is patterns, giftable to you through Ravelry. I will gift you patterns up to $15 US. Your choice. You can let me know and I'll get them and gift them to you. So that's also one of the prize options. So again, those are your 5 options. Just be sure to tell me what your top 4 options are if you're one of the winners. All right, so now the winners. The first winner is the Chatter winner, and the Chatter posts were 2,637 to 3,354. I didn't do the math to figure out how many of those were, but random number generator chose post number 2862, and that's Hockey Rachel. So congratulations, Rachel. Let me know what your prize choices are and your mailing address. Finished objects. There were 82 finished object entries for the 3rd quarter. And so random number generator chose from, technically from 2 through 82, because I have to put them into an Excel spreadsheet. So now the first line is always just the headings. So 2 through 82, and random number generator chose the winner to be P.A. Nitwit, who is Sarah. So Sarah, congratulations. The specifically finished objects that were made with Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarn, there were 22 entries for that, and random number generator chose Seductive Berry, who is Maria. So congratulations, Maria. And lastly is for the Instagram tag. There were not a lot of Instagram tags for the 3rd quarter, and honestly, I think there's maybe 3 people using it. So start tagging your projects with the MIYO Mal tag, because it really ups your chances of winning in that place. But meanwhile, this quarter's Instagram tag winner was Nicole Simmons Knits. So Nicole, congratulations. So the 4 of you, Rachel, Sarah, Maria, and Nicole, please email me, fibernymph@gmail.com. Let me know your full name and mailing address, your top 4 prize choices, and I will get those out to you. And if you don't have to tell me the patterns right now, unless that's, actually don't tell me the patterns right now, because I'll let you know if that's the one you're getting or not. And when that happens, you can tell me what patterns you want. So okay. Oh my god, I am so sorry, I keep kicking this. I'm not used to tripod being right there. Okay, so that takes us to studio news, and I already showed you a couple of the colorways that I put up in that update that I did last week. So again, Magic Potions, Leaf Litter, Shorty Sock Sets. I also put up Halloweeny, which was my new Halloween colorway last year. So that, there's still some of that in the shop. This one's on Traveler. And then I did this new colorway, which is a variegated colorway. I haven't been doing a lot of variegateds, but I had the idea for this one and I really wanted to do it. This is called Witching Hour, and it's just that really dark, shadowy colors, but then there's some bright pops like that green, and there's this brighter pink, and there's a little bit of red in there too somewhere. Yeah, you can see that. The Witching Hour is like that time of day, like in the early evening when everybody's kind of coming home. Kids need to do homework and maybe start, you know, cleaning things up or whatever, and everybody gets crabby and you're trying to get dinner and something burns and, you know, everybody's just tired. And it just kind of seems like somebody there might be a demon possessing you, but there's probably not. When that otherworldly stuff could seem to be happening. We've always called that the Witching Hour. So anyway, it is on Sunshine, and then I also did some up on my fluff base, which I will tell you, the fluff took everything much softer, which it always does. So like here's that green here, but it's just so much softer. Each of the skeins of all of this were hand done individually, so they're all going to be very different with color placement and the amount of the colors in different areas, so just keep that in mind. What else in the studio news? Coming up, again, I said I will have some full skeins of this Leaf Litter self-striping. That'll be coming to the shop soonish. I am going to do more Gathering Seashells. I'm going to do one more lot of that in the shop. I have some new late fall at least one new late fall colorway that I'm going to be coming out with soonish also. And then I'm going to be moving into like holiday and winter colorways also soonish. So those are all things that will be coming down the pike. I am a Pigskin Party sponsor again this year. So Pigskin Party is sponsored by Downseller Studios, Jen. I have not actively taken part as a sponsor yet this year. So at this point, what it means is if you have any of my yarn in your stash, you can use it and you can get extra points because I'm a Pro Shop sponsor. But I will be coming out with an exclusive colorway for the Pigskin Party that will be directly released into the shop next month, probably by about mid-month. But I'm going to be doing a pre-order mystery release of it probably this weekend. So you might check that. It's going to be a very limited number of skeins, maybe like 10 or a dozen skeins. And basically what that will mean is you're ordering it sight unseen. So if you trust me and you'd like to get a mystery skein, that will be the exclusive skein, and you will receive yours before it's released in the shop, so you'll know what it looks like. Anyway, those will be going up into the shop this weekend. What else? Again, holiday countdown collections, they're underway. I am working diligently to try to get those shipped out on time by the promised date, which I believe was November 7th. I've lost a whole lot of studio time over the last couple of months, and I'm hoping that will not impact things. If it does, closer to that date, if it looks like things are going to go out a little bit later, I will definitely get in touch with everybody individually who has ordered one and let you know that. But otherwise, assume everything's going according to plan. And as always, anything with the shop, the newsletter is the very best way to know what's going on and what's going to be up in the shop. Again, I'm steering clear of actual like specific date and time updates for the foreseeable future. So pay attention in the newsletter and I will let you know either what's going up or what has just gone up, probably on a weekly-ish basis. That's my goal. Also, I'll always be posting to Instagram, and that stuff gets posted also to the Facebook page. So check those out, and you'll know what's happening. Lastly, one thing that isn't going to change about the podcast is I would like to end with the What's Bringing Me Joy section because I really like that. And I want to share something joyful and happy with you at the end of every podcast. And the item that I'm choosing to talk about this week is affirmations. Over the past couple of months, I have really been focused on reading affirmations or listening to them. There's podcast versions of them and everything. And I have a deck. It's called the Sweet Ass Affirmations 2 deck. There was a 1. Also, I don't have that one. I think I even showed that to you one time on the podcast. Anyway, there's a podcast related to that deck. The guy who created that deck, his name's Heath Armstrong. He has a podcast for that, and it's supposed to be like a 60-second daily affirmation podcast. It's longer than 60 seconds, but it's not very long. But anyway, I listen to that every once in a while. But then it dawned on me one day, I'm like, I wonder if there's other like just really short, bite-sized affirmation podcasts out there. And so I went on Spotify and I started looking, and lo and behold, there are plenty. And the one that I have been listening to in the last week or so that I've really been enjoying is called Think Positive Daily Affirmations by Dacha Aratola. Dachia. That's her first name. Dacha Aratola. She's very upbeat, and all of these audio bits are no more than, I don't think I've seen one that's more than 3 minutes. Most of them are right in the 2-minute range. So they're always short. For the, like yesterday's, the affirmation part was, my fears are melting away, I am reliable. They're just 2 short sentences. That's what all of the affirmations are. And then she gives you a question. I'm thinking, what was it? One of the recent ones was, what is a challenge that you've overcome that you're proud of? And I think the point of the question is to like kind of give you a journaling prompt if you want a journaling prompt for the day. And then she always closes it with a quote. And the quote for today was, "He knows not his own strength who hath not known adversity." I did not write down who said that quote. But anyway, that was the quote she shared. So like those are the things, 3 things, like the affirmation, a question, and a quote, you know, an encouraging quote. And it's just so nice. It's a nice thing to have in your day. So if that's something that you think might add something to your day, then I would highly recommend that podcast. I'll put the link to it in the show notes. So that is everything for this episode of my slightly newly reformulated podcast that is not 90% knitting anymore. That is just you visiting with me here on my Fiber Nymph Dye Works channel. And I appreciate you being here, and I hope to talk to you again really soon. Take care.